With me here today are a number of my council colleagues, and I'll ask that when I call your name to stand up, and if you can hold your applause until I've introduced all of them. Councillor Louis Brown, Councillor Fred Clipsham, Councillor Michael Fougere, Councillor Johnny Findura, and Councillor O'Donnell. I should make note that, and I'll say this because he's officially announced that he won't be running again in the upcoming civic election next year, but someone who I've had the privilege of working with for the last 12 years, and who's been an incredible supporter of the initiatives, not only that I've tried to bring forward, but the rest of our colleagues, but more importantly, your initiatives as a community. And Fred, on behalf of all of us, we want to thank you for your contribution, your many years of contribution to the city. And of course, I'm a lucky guy because I have the opportunity to work with such a dedicated team. And we all have incredibly different backgrounds and personalities, but the one thing we have in common is the fact that we agreed to work together for the benefit of our citizens. So we're fortunate in that respect. I know that we have visitors from across the country here, and I think you could always look in your own backyard to realize that to have a city council that is as unified and that works as closely as we do is a rarity, and we are fortunate in that respect. Christmas time. Well, this is one of my favorite times of year. This is the season for me that's really about family, friends, and faith. But it's also a time that we want to go back and reflect on all the blessings that we have in our lives. It's also a wonderful time to celebrate the many successes that our Regina citizens and businesses have achieved. I don't have to tell you that 2011 was an incredible year. And on behalf of my colleagues on City Council, I want to thank you for your commitment to our city. I want to thank you for investing in this community. And I want to thank you for building your businesses and growing your families here. It's because of you that Regina is indeed experiencing such success. And as I've done previously, I am going to provide a brief overview of some of the activities that went on in our city this year. And then I'll wrap up with hearing from you and answering any questions that you may have. We are one of Canada's fastest growing cities. We're seeing very clearly that change is now the new norm for our community. The Conference Board of Canada is expecting Regina to lead the country in growth this year, and will continue to see healthy growth next year. Every corner of this community is touched by growth, but nowhere is it more evident than in the heart of our city. We've seen tremendous results from the downtown neighborhood plan, with announcements of significant investment in the heart of our city, including the Hill Centre 3 Tower, Capitol Point Plaza, Gardens on Rose, the Avison Young Office Building on Albert and 11th, as well as the Centre Square condo complex on Broad. Plans are also in the works for Saskatchewan's largest office tower in the downtown as well. Every day we're seeing progress, of course, on the Hill Tower. You see the crane making its way to higher buildings or higher floors. Demolition is nearly complete in the old Plains Hotel. Now, once they finally got the demolition going, it wasn't long before the Landmark building was a pile of rubble. And I must admit, I was out of town when the demolition started. So when I drove in to work on Monday, I always come up Victoria Avenue. You need to understand, I grew up 5 blocks away from the Plains Hotel, so you're accustomed to driving up and seeing the Plains Hotel. So when I pulled up going east to the corner of Albert and Victoria Avenue and had a look to my left, it's a bit of a, even though I knew it was coming down, it was a bit of a shock. But that's called progress. Anyone who's driven by that corner of Alberta 11th certainly has seen the huge excavation that's taking place right now, which is going to be the new 4-story Avison Young building, which will include two underground parking levels. The $31 million Centre Square Place 10-story condominium project is also underway in our downtown. 71 units ranging from 900 to 2,000 square feet run in the price range of $327,000 to $1 million for a penthouse suite. And I understand that all 4 penthouses have been spoken for. I'm not sure we would have been speaking that language 10 years ago. Occupancy is expected in the fall of 2013. Work has also begun on the 12-story, $30 million Gardens on Rose luxury condominium project. 30 units are already sold on the 64-unit development. Condos range in size from 1,150 square feet to over 1,400, and they'll be ready in the fall of 2013. And of course, we've been working on a very visible project in the downtown, the Festival Plaza adjacent to Victoria Park. We know that this has caused inconvenience for our citizens, our visitors, and for businesses and owners in the area. However, this project is an exciting investment in our city's future. Together, we are redefining our downtown to create a more vibrant, inviting, accessible place that attracts people to the heart of our city. All the fencing is down now. Other than adding some glass to the stage, the final touches are in. And if you haven't already done so, I encourage you to please take a walk through that plaza. Since the plaza opened to the public, people are already enjoying the space. Even now that the weather has gone a bit colder, people are still drawn to the area. Our community services staff are working on getting the ice skating surface ready for the season. So you've probably seen already that there's an area that's going to be dedicated to a rink. The shack is already up. And we're looking forward to, I shouldn't say this because I don't like cold weather, but we are kind of looking forward so that we can pour water and have it freeze. And as you know, our original plan was to open 12th Avenue to traffic. We're reevaluating that plan, and we've decided to keep the plaza as a pedestrian-only space pending the results of a transportation study in the downtown, with the first phase being ready for this June. Why the decision to keep it closed for now? Well, the plaza concept is not a new one. Throughout North America and Europe, they are a commonplace. And as the construction fences came down, it was amazing to see how people reacted to the space and how they choose to use it. This is a new concept for us, and we want to make sure that we get it right. Sometimes that means adjusting plans as a project progresses. And as I said before, change is the new norm in our city. And we know that it won't be easy. We know we have work to do to address traffic flow along 11th and 12th Avenue, and that's why the traffic study is on its way. We know that reaction is mixed to keeping the plaza closed to vehicles. We are confident the plaza project will help to draw people into the downtown for festivals, farmers markets, and other activities, but more importantly, to your businesses. It is our expectation that the plaza will be so well used with festivals and activities that it will be too busy to be open to vehicles. And we will see more businesses and residents choosing to call downtown their home. Now, another exciting project in the horizon is the potential redevelopment of the soon-to-be former CP container yards, and of course the Mosaic Stadium site. Back in April, I announced a vision for redeveloping this significant amount of land in Regina's inner city. As you know, we're talking about prime inner city property converted to new housing and residential areas, commercial and retail space, and of course, possibly a new entertainment facility in the heart of our city. Not possibly, for sure. It represents the largest inner city redevelopment in the history of Regina. Indeed, one of the largest in all of Canada. And building on the success of Regina's downtown neighborhood plan, the initiative is planning to deliver a replacement for Mosaic Stadium. and will add to our current sports and entertainment options, including a new anchor facility that will attract future development in the area. The project will also provide a variety of housing options where residents live, work, and play. We know that there are two pressing concerns in our community: the need for housing and the need for expanded commercial space. This vision meets all of those needs. This is a 10 to 15-year project for our community. And of course, the intent is to have the new entertainment facility completed for 2016. Another area where we are seeing significant development is one of the most exciting economic development projects in this province's history. And what I'm referring to is the Global Transportation Hub. Construction work on the 300-acre site on the CP mainline will be finished by the end of 2012. So they are going from currently 17 acres, where they are now on Dudney, to 300 acres out at the GTH. The new terminal will be able to handle about 250,000 container loadings per year, compared to 45,000 at its present facility. And it's about 100 jobs, new jobs, to be created during the construction phase. As you heard, Reliance-based Alliance Grain Traders announced plans for a $50 million pasta and pulse milling plant, the first of its kind in Canada. And the plant will generate 150 construction jobs and 60 permanent jobs when completed in 2013, of course, at the Global Transportation Hub. Yankee Group of Companies will build a $20 million intermodal and trucking terminal, container yard, refrigerated warehouse, and related facilities on 40 acres out at the GTH. This project will handle about 400 to 500 truckloads per week and create 40 new jobs. The business opportunities in the GTH are incredible. The economic spin-off of the construction phase alone is phenomenal. Now just think of the impact when those areas are fully built out. Now we as a city council, we've been preparing for growth with significant plans, including the transit investment plan, the recreation facilities investment plan, a waste management plan, and of course the Regina Downtown Neighborhood Plan. Each of these are at various stages of implementation, all with the focus on sustainability. One that has generated quite a bit of discussion in the community is Waste Plan Regina, and the residential curbside recycling program in particular. In October, City Council voted to include a benchmark in the RFP process for private sector companies to provide citywide curbside recycling collection. This was a tough decision. Do we set a benchmark or do we let the market set it? What it really came down to is being able to ensure that there is confidence based on the information we have to make the right decision. There has to be an understanding that City Council is not prepared to go over a certain price. What setting a benchmark does is allows us the option of the city providing the service in-house if it's in the best interest of our community. We want to be confident that when we are awarding this to the private sector, that it is for a very competitive price. Now, of course, we want this service to be in place by 2013, and we are on track to achieve that goal. Another exciting project is part of the transit investment plan. We're on the verge of a one-year pilot project to test a new generation of bus tracking electronics. This will allow passengers to use web-connected computers or cell phones to find out exactly when buses are arriving at their stops. Transit has offered the online trip planner for some time to help users determine the best route to get to their destination, including scheduled arrival times. But outside variables such as weather or a traffic disruption like breakdowns, collisions, or detours can delay buses. This real-time tracking system will provide immediate information on bus location. We've partnered with TR Labs to provide transitlive.com on a limited number of specifically equipped buses over the last year. But by the end of this year, Regina Transit hopes to have all of our fleet our entire fleet configured with this new system. So of course I could stand here all day talking about the terrific things that are happening in our community. More importantly, the terrific people that are making it happen in this community. At top of mind is Brant Group of Companies that recently announced their Thanks a Billion campaign. For the first time in their history, Brant eclipsed $1 billion in annual revenue. Imagine that, $1 billion in annual revenue. A truly remarkable accomplishment for Saskatchewan's largest privately held company. In true Brant style, to mark this milestone, they're giving back to their employees through a $1.3 million in profit sharing and donating $100,000 to the United Way and $50,000 to the Children's Wish Foundation. And as big as they are, Brant has never lost sight of where they came from. Gavin and Sean Semple are true leaders who know the value of community. Fitted with specialized fitness equipment, the First Steps Spinal Cord Injury Wellness Center opened in this city. The center is the first certified Project Walk provider in Canada. Project Walk is an intensive exercise and wellness program geared towards those with spinal cord injuries. And of course, unless you know someone or you've been directly affected by this, you don't realize the impact that a center like this has on people's lives. And of course, people from all over the country are making their way to Regina to see this. The Old House, or This Old House magazine, selected Regina's Crescents neighborhood as one of their best old house neighborhoods for 2011. Canada's first Subway Cafe opened at Regina Centre Crossing. Lowe's Home Improvement opened in Regina Southwest. The 103,000 square foot building houses 40,000 items of merchandise and a 32,000 square foot garden center. Regina's Rachel Melky was named the Business Development Bank of Canada's 2011 Young Entrepreneur for Saskatchewan. And she launched her fall line with a New York City style runway show, raising $5,000 for Maloma, Canada. Regina won the right to host the 2014 North American Indigenous Games. The Games are expected to attract 10,000 athletes, coaches, family members, and supporters over a 2-week period in the summer of 2014. The Games showcase athletes between 15 years of age and 19 and includes 15 sports. The event has a $10.3 million budget and is expected to infuse $30 to $35 million into our local economy. As you know, Regina will host the 2013 Grey Cup. The economic impact is estimated to be about $35 million there as well, and that every hotel in the city will be filled to capacity. Festivities will use venues at Everest Place, of course Regina Downtown, including the Festival Plaza, the FW Hill Mall, and of course every restaurant, lounge, hotel in the downtown. Regina and Moose Jaw will host the Juno Awards in April of 2013. It is expected that participants, VIPs, and media will use 4,500 room nights during the festival. In total, the event is expected to have provincial economic impact of $5.6 million GDP, $3.4 million in wages and salaries. It's going to create about 85 short-term jobs and generate $3.3 million in government revenue. Now, the University of Regina celebrated its centennial. Its enrollment reached an all-time high. And President Vian Timmins was again named one of Canada's most powerful women. Not only did she went to Toronto to receive that award, and 2 days later she ran the half marathon in Vegas. Incredible one. Minneapolis-based Target plans to convert the Zeller store in Regina's Northgate Mall into a Target store within the next few years. Or as my wife calls it, Target, when she shops there. Site Selection magazine ranked Regina as one of the top 10 places to invest in Canada. The Regina Airport Authority undertook a $16 million refurbishing of its two main runways. The project gives the runway another 15 years of life and will increase the size of the apron adjacent to the terminal building, permitting more aircraft parking. A $2.7 million investment in a hydrogen pilot plant at the University of Regina could set the stage for the commercialization of a catalyst that could revolutionize the production of hydrogen for the energy sector. The Royal Saskatchewan Museum was recognized by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization for the Human Factor exhibit created by the museum as part of a program that recognizes projects that educates people about issues surrounding cultural diversity and the environment. The Saskatchewan Science Centre is hosting the Titanic, the artifact exhibit. I'd highly recommend you go have a look at that. It's pretty remarkable. Edmonton-based Stantec expanded its transportation group of Saskatchewan, including 26 professional and technical staff based in Regina and Saskatoon. And they also established its Clean Coal Centre of Excellence in Regina, employing 70 people. The City of Regina hosted two very historic flag raisings this fall. We are the first municipality in Canada to permanently raise First Nations and Métis flags in front of City Hall. These flags are an acknowledgement of the strong ties and vital importance Aboriginal people play in every aspect of our community. The City of Regina's building permits broke the $500 million mark for the first time in our 108-year history. Now, this is just a small sampling. There are far too many success stories to touch on all of them, and for those of you, because you're all successful, if you felt that your success should have been mentioned here, I'm sorry. Let me know about it, and I'll make sure that every radio appearance I'm on, I'll mention one of them. At Monday's City Council meeting, we approved the city's operating capital budgets that set out a 3.9% increase in the mill rate. The 2012 budget builds on what we've accomplished with our previous budgets. You need to know something. Unlike other municipalities, we are taking care of our infrastructure. We're investing in responsible growth and continuing to target investments that build a healthy and safe community for the long term, with opportunities for children, families, and seniors. The long term. Some of these decisions might not be the most popular, but they're the right decisions. This rate increase will allow us to ensure our city is moving in the right direction and will help us with our infrastructure challenges. As our infrastructure gets older, we need to invest in essential repairs and replacements to maintain our community's quality of life. And that's exactly what you'll see happen as a result of the 2012 budget. Residents continue to tell me, and of course my colleagues as well on council, that they want to continue to see improvements in the city, in programs, in services, and in infrastructure. So we've decided to do that. Now, as you know, this is truly a land of opportunity. We are no longer the poor cousins. We are a have province. We are a have city. And we are the envy of the entire country. These are exciting times for our city. And our citizens are seeing firsthand the benefits of a tremendous growth and economic prosperity. But it needs change. Closely with John Hawkins to see what we can do. We're not interested in doing things on our own. Our success has been as a result of partnerships, and we're going to continue with those partnerships. But just remember one thing, and I don't have to tell you this because you guys are experiencing it in your own businesses. Things are moving very quickly, very quickly. That means we have to kind of shift along the go, and if we don't, we're going to be left behind. The stars are lined up right now for us to do some great things, great things. I don't have to tell you that. but you better recognize when those stars are lined up, and they're lined up. So, in closing, to all of you, I most definitely want to wish each of you the success in the upcoming year. To all of you, and I'm going to take questions, by the way, but to all of you, a very Merry Christmas, success, health, and prosperity in the new year. And thanks for letting me be your mayor. God bless.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I just want to start by saying this. 12 years ago, we really needed change. This community was in a very different place. And I think in large part due to your leadership, I love Regina, and a lot of the initiatives you have undertaken, you've made the city, helped to make the city what it is today. So thank you very much for that. Parking type questions here, but we'll get into them. Is there a plan or a time frame for a bypass around East Regina? And some would say west, too.
Great question. As you know, Councillor Fougere has been leading the charge on the East Bypass. And I can tell you that last month we had a very successful, well, actually 2 months ago, we had a very, very successful meeting with the Minister. And we have now created a working group, not only made up of our municipal staff and provincial staff, but also the municipalities that are affected by this as well, which of course is going to be Emerald Park, White City, Pilot Butte, Balgoni. And our expectation is that we will have that new East Bypass up and running within 5 years. We don't have a choice with the GTH, with the number of traffic that the GTH is creating, that's semi-traffic. We're not interested in those trucks coming through the city. We're not interested in the dangers that come along with that and the destruction to our streets and roads. So the provincial government recognizes the need, also with the growth. So it's going to be determined where, and then it'll get built. But it has to be done in a 5-year, within 5 years.
We definitely have this chamber's support on that, just so you know. There's a couple of parking-related questions. Maybe I'll ask them both together. What is the city doing to solve downtown parking issues? And then with parking enforcement a potential revenue generator, why is it so poorly organized, particularly on Saturdays?
That's a great question. First of all, we're not going to be, we don't want to do things ad hoc. So as you might be aware, and if you're not, I'll tell you right now, we're actually completing a parking study for not only just downtown, but the entire city. We have issues at our hospitals, we have issues at the university, SciAst, and of course a number of other parts of the city. So there's a comprehensive parking study being conducted. Number two, the parking enforcement historically has been managed by the police service. Starting January 1st, the City of Regina is taking that over. We'll be responsible for it. And what that's going to look like down the road, we're not sure, but we do know this. We need to do a better job of enforcement. There's a number of things that have to be done differently. But I think in order for that to happen, we need to be in control of it. So we, effective January 1st, will be taking over all parking enforcement. The commissioners have the contract now. We're not sure what that's going to look like down the road either. But we hear you loud and clear, not only within the downtown, but we have issues within, of course, the cathedral area along 13th Avenue, and there's other areas of the city that have the same challenges. And you know, we've heard the issue with enforcement, especially on weekends. There's a number of things that we can do differently. I think there's a real communication issue as well in regards to letting people know specifically where parking is available, especially during the weekend. But we know we have to do a better job there. And our commitment to you is that the study will be conducted. We're bringing parking enforcement in-house, and there's going to be a whole new communication strategy so that everybody has a... We just have to do a better job. We agree.
think you'll like this question. With so many upcoming expenses for city, like infrastructure, what is the city strategy in dealing with these major requirements? How will this affect taxpayers in the 5 to 10 years, particularly on infrastructure?
Sure. Great question. So we're kind of in an enviable position in regards to where we are with our debt load. So we don't have a lot of debt as a municipality. Our reserve funds, just so you know, are the healthiest they've ever been. And number three, we're working, as you heard, the federal minister announced 2 weeks ago on a long-term infrastructure plan for this country. And the committee that's been created will consist of provincial governments, municipal governments, the federal government, and the private sector. And our intent is to look at a long-term plan, not just for the life cycle of a government, but a long-term plan specifically targeting on what investments have to be made. As you know, last year the federal government announced new regulations on how wastewater needs to be treated in our country, which meant hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that municipalities were going to have to spend. So municipalities let the federal government know, okay, we can do that, but who's going to pay for it? Well, there was no plan. The federal government had no intentions of providing funding. However, through discussions, the federal government recognized that if this has to happen, there's got to be some participation by the federal government. So right now, there's discussions happening with the federal government on what kind of funding could be made available, because municipalities are going to have to, in many cases, replace their wastewater treatment plant or upgrade it. The estimated cost for us right now is about $150 million. And of course, as you know, not all cities have a water and sewer utility. It's part of their overall property tax base, which makes it even more difficult for them. We're fortunate enough to have the utility. So it's water and wastewater is all funded through the utility, through your water bill. And as you know, we've increased the rates, and this is all based on what's happening down the road, because it has to be replaced. We don't have the money for it. If indeed the federal government, what's probably going to happen is they're going to have a cost-sharing program that'll come in. We're making that assumption. We better have our share of the money though ready. And yes, we've got some major infrastructure developments coming in the future. We need to prepare for that. So part of that is ensuring, because one of the questions that was asked at council was, you've got a reserve fund and you have a surplus. Why don't you use that towards your property, towards reducing the mill rate? We can do that, but it's just going to cost more money down the road. So we're better off ensuring that we're ready for some of these big, expensive items that are going to be coming to us over the next little while. I should tell you this too, really quick, just so you know. A couple of years ago, we changed the policy on new development infrastructure. So when a new development was going up, for example, Harbour Landing, older built Regina would help subsidize, so the property taxes would help subsidize the infrastructure in those communities. Well, through the help of the Regina Regional Home Builders, their leadership actually, working with our administration, we were able to put together a new funding model where that new development was actually funded by the developers themselves. And that's made a significant difference. Not only that, there's a portion of that development fee that actually goes to the public good. So for example, part of the downtown plaza was funded by developers through development fees. So it's certainly a different model that was out there before, but it's made a tremendous difference and has reduced the pressure on property taxpayers as we move forward. But as I said, we don't expect every citizen to have all this information. We're elected to make this decision based on the information that we have, and we want to share as much of it as possible. But as you know, we 30 years ago, municipalities, provincial governments, and federal governments did a terrible job of planning for the future. And I think all three orders of government today and the private sector recognize that we got to do a better job of this, and have come to the table to do a better job. So I think you're going to see things a lot different in the next little while.
Your Worship, that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much for everything you do. Appreciate it.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
We'll do a few draws here.